by reflecting their conduct and seeking forgiveness from God and their fellow men by prayers and confessions. Each of the new year is the integrated part of the Jewish or Chinese civilization and considerably meaningful to the Jewish and the Chinese people, respectively. I believe that we will learn a lot from the speakers' presentations. This seminar is held by the SDU and the TAU French Institute of Jewish and Israeli Studies. As the name of the institute indicates, it aims to broaden and deepen our understanding of Jewish and Israeli cultural traditions and realities in present Israel, to promote mutual understanding and strengthening a friendly relationship between the two peoples. By common efforts of the scholars from Tel Aviv University and Shandong University, we have made progress, especially in the studies on Haredi foods in the COVID-19 virus pandemic. We will surely go further and faster by our continuous research and conferences, student and faculty exchanges, and other activities. This seminar is one step toward the goal. I congratulate the beginning of the seminar and wish it a complete success. Thank you very much. Now I think it's your turn, Ray, and could you please give some opening remark?
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Refa, for initiating this important event and also for your leadership of our institute. And I also want to thank Yan Yan, that you can all see there, and Ibal for all the efforts in organizing this event. It's a very special day for us today in Israel because it's the first day of the school year, of the academic year. And we always have that day a week after the end of the period of the Jewish holidays. So we are marking today 2 new beginnings, and in a way 3, because after a year and a half that we did not have normal university life because of COVID-19, today we resume normalcy and we actually see students on campus. I have to say, it's heartwarming to see that we have 98 participants in this seminar. I have to say it is much, much more than what we expected. So it's really great to see such interest. And I also invite you, if you like, to open your Zoom cameras so we can actually see you, those who are participating. Because note that I cannot read Chinese, so I don't know who's here. I can only recognize faces. So if you'd like to open your cameras, you're very, very welcome to do so. And if not, of course, that's also okay. That's a blessing of Zoom that you have the choice. And I think also a word of congratulations is in order, Inbal, to Shandong University that is celebrating 120 years.
Yes.
And that's also in a way a new beginning. As you know, in Judaism, 120 is a very special number.
Mm-hmm.
We always say when there is a birthday, someone celebrates his or her birthday, we always say we wish you to reach the age of 120. No, if someone is 114, 112, that's a bit risky because you wish you much more. So actually, our wishes to Shandong is not 120, but 250, 450, whichever, 5,000, whichever. But for sure, the usual Jewish blessing up to 120 is not relevant here. So we wish you many, many, many more successful years. And I guess now
Thank you.
Start with our first presentation discussion today. So the floor is back to you, Professor.
Do you think we should invite everybody to turn on the photo? And I mean, we can see all of them. Maybe we can take a photo together. Who can operate it?
我这边呢截图。
哦 ，OK， 就是。
啊，那个咱们听众大家把摄像头打开，拍个合影吧。
So please turn on the photo. Everybody. 现在能看到多少人？
有120多个，我看看。
请同学们都打开。
对，大家坚持一会儿啊，因为我得一页一页的解啊。看镜头啊。
可以了。
啊，好的。有一个。很好。好，是。再来一个哈，来大家看镜头。好嘞。Okay.
Very nice.
You got it, Yanni?
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
很好啊。
好了。
好了。
好 ，OK. Now let's start the presentation. First of all, let's invite Dr. Sarah Sackberg to give her presentation. The title of the presentation is "The Meaning of a New Year in Judaism." Dr. Sarah Sackberg is a adjunct lecturer of Tel Aviv University and Hadassah Academic College. And Dr. Sarah Sackberg specializes in the study of ultra-Orthodox community in Israel and with a special focus on gender relations. And she teaches in Tel Aviv University graduate program and religious studies. And he is author of numerous books and quite a number of articles. And during her presentation, Professor Savage will give some help in language. You know, some question and some interpretation. I mean, from Hebrew or from English into English. Now, let's invite Dr. Sarah Sackberg. So please.
Hello. First of all, I want to thank you very much for this great opportunity to take part at this special and unique conference.
Now we have to get permission for presentation. We try to do share screen and we're getting host disabled. We prepared presentation.
Okay, now it's on. Now it's on.
Okay, just 1 minute. Let us.
Here, put this one. Yes. No, I think this one.
Sarah, yes. Sima, are we doing it in the form of a presentation through a conversation?
Up to you. It could be.
Yes. Through the. Do you see the presentation now?
Yes.
On full screen?
Yes. Okay, maybe do this.
No. They said it's on full screen.
It's not.
It's okay.
You see it on full screen? Is that okay?
Yes.
It's okay now.
It should be okay.
Okay.
So, yes. So Sarah and Sima, Dr. Salzberg and Dr. Salzberg, they suggested that we do the presentation in the form of a conversation, as that would perhaps allow following it to be a bit more easier. And actually, again, a word of congratulations is in order, because both of you just completed a second essay, a second research, a second study project that you were engaged in under or as part of the Shandong Tel Aviv Center. So I can tell you that those two great researchers who are also just happen to be sister are engaged in fascinating field studies in communities, in religious communities that are very difficult to enter and to gain cooperation. So that's, I think, something to celebrate. Dr. Salzberg, my first question is the following. I think most people have the idea that there is one new year in Judaism, the one that we marked and celebrated several weeks ago. But you will actually, I guess, are going to inform us that we are wrong. There are 4 New Years every year in Judaism. How is that?
In order to discuss the meaning of a new year in Judaism, it is important to note first that in Judaism, we are actually talking about 4 New Years and not just one, with the meaning of each being connected with annual mitzvot, religious commandments, especially mitzvot that depend on the land of Israel, where each one marks the beginning or a renewal. The details of these 4 New Years and their dates, according to the Hebrew calendar, appear in the Mishnah. The first New Year, according to the biblical counting of the month, is the national year. This New Year relates to the Jewish people, not the entire world. It begins with the first month of the biblical accounting, in Hebrew called Nisan, which is the first month of spring, corresponds with March, April. This new year marks the first of the 3 pilgrimage holidays mentioned in the Bible and the reign of kings, when there were kings in Israel. The second New Year is the New Year for domestic animals. This New Year in ancient times was an accounting reference that was the transitional date for animals that determined in which year a tenth was taken for the temple tax. It is on the first day of the 6th month in the biblical counting of the month Elul, correspond with August, September. The third year is the New Year for humans. It begins on the first day of the 7th month in the biblical counting of the month Tishrei, corresponds with September, October. This new year, which is called in Hebrew Rosh Hashanah, that is the head of the year. It is the new year for ordinary years, sabbatical years, and dates inscribed on legal deeds and contracts. While the first new year that was mentioned is a new year on the collective level for Jewish people, this new year is related more to the individual, as this is the Rosh Hashanah new year that everyone is familiar with and the most meaningful today. We will expand later about these meanings. The 4th and last year is the new year for trees. This is in the 11th month in the biblical counting of the month Shvat, corresponds with January, February, and often matches the month of Changyu, like the beginning of the year for domestic animals. This date is used in the time of the temple for determining to which year the produce belongs for teething for the temple tax. The date today is often marked by a celebration involving fruits and grapes grown in Israel. Although the fruit celebration of trees is usually not as exciting as a Changyu, in 2023, the 2 months will exactly coincide.
Okay. Okay. Indeed, the New Year of Humanity, Rosh Hashanah, has other interesting meanings besides the one that just were mentioned. The first one is the coronation of God as King of the universe. Rosh Hashanah, the new year for humanity, is considered the day on which God's reign over the world is renewed. Therefore, this day is characterized with a trumpet call most of the time in synagogues, cheers and rejoicing in accordance with the custom of coronation ceremonies in which the reception of the king is with joy and sound of trumpets. Rosh Hashanah is also the date on which, according to Judaism, Adam and Eve were created, and therefore this is the first day that God reigns over mankind. Another meaning of the new year of the humanity of Rosh Hashanah is that Rosh Hashanah considered the day on which God judges all the people of the world for their deeds in the past year and accordingly determines their fate during the coming year. According to the Talmud, all the events of the year are determined at the beginning of it. The Talmud tells of 3 books that open at the beginning of the new year. The first book is the Book of Complete Righteous, who are written and signed immediately to life. The second book is the book for the utterly evils, who are written and signed immediately to death. The third book is the book for those in between, in waiting from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur on the 10th day when the verdict is determined. Therefore, from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, it is customary to wish a good determination. As a result, the Jewish believer does an accounting for his soul. Another important issue related to a new year for the humanity is the emphasis that we put on the combination of religious and social aspect. The Jewish approach believes that in order to promote a good verdict, 3 main strategies are adopted. The first one is repentance, which is a key concept in Judaism. In Hebrew, we call it tshuva. And the tshuva means that the door is open for those who have sins, regret their deeds, and attempt to change. The second strategy is prayer, calling to God and talking to God. And the third one is charity, which is similar to the ancient temple sacrifice, where the person gives up something of personal value for the benefit of the community. This strategy, the charity, emphasizes that there is a central meaning to the social aspect, to the behavior between a person and his friend. The centrality of the social aspect is very. The social aspect is very central in the process of the tshuva, of the repentance, and it expressed in the perception that a man can atone for his sins through prayers and fasting, expression of remorse and commitment to God to refrain from sinning in the future, and God will forgive him. However, prayers and asking for forgiveness from God do not atone for the sins between a person and his friend. And in order to gain atonement in the social sphere, man must seek the forgiveness directly from the one whom he harmed and gained his forgiveness. Only if he got the friend's forgiveness, God may forgive him. Another central aspect of the new year for the humanity relates to continuity and renewal. Following the perception that God determines the human fate for the coming year in accordance with his conduct in the past year, the new year has a meaning of continuity and renewal. We are talking, therefore, about psychological well-being following the possibility of erasing past transgressions and opening a new page. We opened by saying that, okay, continue, the next one, okay. We opened by saying that Rosh Hashanah, that is the new year for the humanity, is the date on which, according to the Jewish perception, Adam and Eve were created. According to the Judaism, this Adam and Eve were created on the sixth day, 5,782 years ago. But according to the science, the universe was started 13.8 billion years ago, and humans first appeared 300,000 years ago. How can this be reconciled? Obviously, many Jewish Orthodox scientists and rabbis have grappled with these questions with many explanations, and we'll give you the major explanations for this.
Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who was the chief rabbi of England and a respected writer and a great scholar and thinker, said that there is no contradiction, but today Judaism still does not have the tools to explain it. Gerald Schroeder, a physicist, PhD from MIT and an Orthodox Jew, he wrote 3 books on this subject, says that the Hebrew words of the Bible were very carefully chosen such that they can actually agree with the laws of physics and allow for 368 billion years. The Rambam, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, known as Nachmanides, who was born in Spain over 800 years ago, examined carefully the biblical text and claimed that when God first created, the whole universe was originally smaller than a seed of mustard. Then, in the course of 15 billion years, it extended into what we see today. The first 6 days, as written in the Bible, contain with Kol Yemot HaOlam, all the time, ages and secrets of the universe.
So we hope you got some idea about the conciliation of the date of creation, as well as a little taste about the meaning of the new year, or to be more accurate, the new years in the Judaism.
And the meaning of time, the meaning of circle, the meaning of time in Judaism.
I have just one final question. So when was the universe created? We understand from your presentation when Adam and Eve were created, but when was the Big Bang?
Okay,
the oceans, the high sky, the high heavens.
The universe create 6 days before, but these 6 days, as we see them today, are equivalent to billion of years in the physics terminology.
So the point is that most of it depends actually whom you ask. You mentioned before the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox people. So most of the Haredim really would delete this issue. And this is why they're not even teaching evolutions in school.
Biology.
Sorry?
Or they don't even teach biology, basic biology, not even evolution theory, which is maybe more advanced.
Absolutely.
But I want,
But
But
I have a question to you, if I may, Sima.
sorry?
Yeah, well, just one quick question, which I think is a bit personal, but would be interesting for our audience. I mean, you are not just great scientists, you're also religious individuals, both of you. So I wonder, because you're inclined to think about anything empirically, and you want proof, I mean, how do you reconcile this?
I will adapt Rabbi Zach's attitude that we don't have the tools to explain these gaps, but we recognize that the world exists for a billion years, but we don't have all the tools to explain how.
We might have.
Dr. Salzberg, isn't that a way to explain basically anything? I mean, I could say that the world was created by a big elephant that laid an egg, and you would say, no, there is no scientific proof. And then I would say, well, we can't explain it yet. I mean, it's basically the same logic, isn't it?
We recognize the science. We recognize, we are not denying it. We definitely recognize it, but we see also, we accepting also the Jewish tradition, and we see the Jewish tradition not as contradiction to the science, but as a completed, and part of it is to have a metaphoric ideas.
And also, I would say that it depends how you, we're talking about different definitions of the concept. For example, a day or a year, we can translate it to a different different length of time. If here we're talking 1 billion years, we can combine, we can define one day as billion years.
Since you mentioned time, or actually our time is up.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for this excellent presentation. We learned a lot, and now the floor is back to Professor Pop.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and for the wonderful presentation. For me, it is really interesting that according to the Jewish calendar, according to the Bible and the Mishnah, actually you have 4 new year. I'm not so sure whether all of the people, all of the Jewish people, or the people in Israel realize the 4 new year, or they just celebrate the new year in the 7th month, Rosh Hashanah. And do the Jewish people in Israel or all over the world do some celebration in other 3 years, other 3 new years? Could you give a very brief answer to my question?
Sarah? Please, you need to unmute.
Do the Jewish people celebrate?
שרה, לא שומעים אותך, בבקשה תעשי
Sarah, we
unmute.
can't hear you. Please unmute yourself, Sarah.
Could you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
we
yes,
can, but now we
please.
hear Sarah.
Kindly repeat shortly. I missed part of the question.
Yeah, I mean according to Jewish calendar and also the source in the Bible and the Mishnah, and the Jewish people have 4 new year a year. Yeah, and do people also celebrate, apart from the Rosh Hashanah, and do the people also celebrate the other 3 New Year's Day?
Yeah, so what is the question? What is the question exactly? Why people?
את שלושת השנים האחרות חוגגים גם כן, את שלושת ראשי שנה האחרים.
Yeah, they celebrate the three of them. So I'm sorry, I could not follow the question again. So what is the question?
האם אנחנו חוגגים את שלושת ראשי השנה הנוספים חוץ מראש השנה לבני?
Absolutely, we do, definitely. But the most meaningful one is the Rosh Hashanah for the human being. That's the most important because, as Sima mentioned, that's the day of the verdict of that we, the God, we believe that the God decide who will stay and who will pass away. And that's the most important. But we definitely celebrate also Passover. And the two others, since they are in link to the ancient days of the days that we used to bring animals to the temple, these two Rosh Hashanah are have less place now. But there is a symbolic day of the Rosh Hashanah for the trees. We call it, as we mentioned, Tu Bishvat, and that's very symbolic day, not as important as the day of the celebration of your fruits in China, as much as I understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. It's really a wonderful presentation, although we have some questions to ask maybe some other time. Now let's turn to the second speaker. The second speaker is from Shandong University, and his name is Zhang Shitao. He's a graduate student for master's degree after doing Buddhism, and in his third year, his presentation is entitled Rosh Hashanah and the Chinese New Year, a comparative perspective. Now, Zhang Shitao, please.
שרה, את יכולה לעשות סטופ שייר?
כן.
Zhang Shitao,
hello.
could you please start?
庄世涛，你开始吧。
Okay. Good afternoon and good evening. I feel honored to have a presentation here. My topic is a comparison of Rosh Hashanah and the Spring Festival. What are some significant differences? The outline of my talk are as follows. The first part, I want to talk the name of the two new years. The second part suggested a simple difference about Jewish and Chinese calendar. The third part covers the most typical characters of these two new years. Finally, a simple conclusion is given. Well, let's move on to the first part of the topic. Rosh Hashanah literally means head of the year. Rosh means head, Ha is the, Shana is year. It is a two-day celebration in Jewish calendar in the 7th month of Tishrei. However, in any case, the biblical New Year is identified with the month of Nisan. This is clearly stated in Exodus chapter 1, chapter 12, verses 1 to 2. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Thank you very, very much.
We have to be quiet.
No, it's on mute.
Actually, Rosh Hashanah is a later term found for the first time in the Mishnah. So it seems that Jews have two New Year holidays. How do Jews explain it? There are several perspectives to answer this question. The Hebrew word Rosh occurs frequently in the Bible in the sense of a peak, such as Numbers chapter 23, verses 9, and Song of Songs chapter 4, verses 8. For from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. The people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned amongst the nations. Come with me from Lebanon, my sponsors. With me from Lebanon, look from the top of Amra, from the top of Shinear and Herm, from the limestones, from the mountains of the Lepos. Obviously, it is reasonable for a mountain to have a double peaks. The Hebrew word Rosh can also be comprehended in the sense of a heading, as in an article. The heading serves to highlight a new and significant area of attention and discussion. Obviously, any article can have more than one heading. Similarly, it's rational for a year to have more than one highlight. We may also explain this from other perspective. If we regard time as linear, there is a definite beginning and end of a year. If we take a year as an interminable and unbroken cycle of seasons, there could be many nodes in a year, each of which can be seen as the beginning of a year. By translating Rosh Hashanah as the peak of the year, Jews have no difficulty with celebrating New Year in Tishri, the 7th month, and in Nisan, the 1st month. Chinese New Year, commonly referred as Spring Festival, nowadays is also a later term. In Chinese history, the term Spring Festival doesn't refer to New Year's Day, but specifically indicates the solar term, the beginning of the spring, which comes from the traditional Chinese calendar and whose date is close to the Spring Festival. In 1913, Yuan Shikai, president of the Chinese Republic, set the Gregorian calendar as the national calendar. In order to distinguish the Chinese traditional New Year from the Gregorians, he defined the New Year's Day as January 1st of the Gregorian calendar and named the traditional Chinese New Year the Spring Festival. Since then, the Chinese have gradually accepted this impressive name. This is a document about a decision. According to Maimonides' calculation, the creation of the world was located in 3761 BCE, which was adopted by the Hebrew calendar. Whether this calculation is reliable or not, it has been widely accepted by Jews in their daily life. When it comes to Spring Festival, it is difficult to give an accurate number because the Chinese do not have a continuous year count. Before the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949, we started new counting with each new emperor. Some scholars tried to reconstruct ancient Chinese chronology by adding up years of reigns using the Huangdi's reign as a starting point. Spring Festival in 2022 marks the beginning of the Chinese year 4659. Unlike the Jews calendar, which has a unique starting point, the continuous year count is not an integral part of the Chinese calendar, but rather an afterthought. In addition, an important aspect of the Chinese traditional calendar is Ganzhi. This is a combination of the 10 Tiangan and the 12 Dizhi, as listed in the table. According to this specific rule, they can represent 60 numbers. For example, we call 1894 光绪20年甲午年, the 20th year of Emperor Guangxu's reign, 甲午年. In addition to the most basic meaning of the New Year, the Jewish New Year emphasizes repentance, whereas the Chinese New Year lays stress on reunion. The Jewish New Year has an element of solemnity during celebration. The best known ritual of Rosh Hashanah is the blowing of shofar, a musical instrument made from a hollowed out ram's horn. It's also a symbolic wake-up call to call out sleepers. Wake up from your slumber, examine your ways, and repent and remember your Creator. Jewish people believe God judged his creations on Rosh Hashanah. Some Jews began to repent and pray before this holiday. On the afternoon of the Rosh Hashanah, devout Jews go to riverside or seaside and recite Micah chapter 7, verses 18 to 20. Then they shake the edge of the clothes 3 times or symbolically throw the breadcrumbs and the stones from the pocket into water. This simple atonement ceremony is called Taslik, which means casting out. By doing this, the Jews cast out their sins to a river or a running stream. The Chinese New Year also contains elements of self-reflection. The difference is that the whole process of Chinese introspection is unconspicuous, private, and completely quiet. 玉皇大帝, who is regarded as the emperor of heaven, either rewards or punishes a family based on a intermediary yearly report. This intermediary is called the 灶王爷, who is a Chinese domestic god that protects the hearth and family. On the 7th day before the New Year, the kitchen god returns to heaven to report the activities of every household over the past year to the Jade Emperor. On this day, the leaves of kitchen god's paper effigy are often smeared with a kind of very sticky sugar to sweeten his word to the Jade Emperor. After this, the effigy will be burnt and replaced by a new one on New Year's Day. This is a painting of Jade Emperor in a Ming Destiny ink and color on silk. The right one is kitchen gas paper effigy. It seems like a way to cover up mistakes. In fact, it's a special form of reflection by the Chinese people. The Chinese people emphasize self-discipline, but it is an implicit introspection. Therefore, it is considered embarrassing to speak out their mistakes in public. In the process of sending the kitchen god to heaven, the Chinese people recall their statements and actions and hope to be forgiven by deities. Unlike the Rosh Hashanah, which emphasize repentance, the Spring Festival lays tremendous stress on reunion. Since ancient times, the customers of the Chinese New Year have been evolving, but family reunion has never been abandoned. For a long time, China has been an agricultural civilization, which took the family as a basic unit to resist the survival risk. This is most important reason why the Chinese people value highly the reunion of family. The desire for reunion gives birth to a very special social phenomenon in China known as Chunyun, a national transportation peak time during the Spring Festival. It lasts about 40 days and is considered as the largest population migration on the Earth's surface. In 2019, the number of passengers sent by the Spring Festival transportation in China was 2.98 billion, more than twice the total population of China. Affected by the COVID-19, the volume of passengers during Spring Festival in 2020 and 2021 has dropped significantly, but Chunyun can still be the most important transportation state in China. There are two pictures about Chunyun. If we continue to explore the similarities and the differences between Rosh Hashanah and the Chinese New Year could be an endless topic. Due to the role of religion, the Jewish New Year has been recorded and preserved both in internal spirit and external performance. Chinese folk religion has also played an important role in the Spring Festival, but its influence has been gradually fading. This might be due to the state atheism imposed officially in China, as well as China's urbanization and industrialization. In this background, Spring Festival has gradually become a social convention. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tao. I have to say that you made a very vivid and clear PPT. It is really wonderful. And also you give very detailed description of the origin of the Jewish New Year and the Chinese New Year, especially from your presentation, we know how the Jewish people, how the Chinese people celebrate their New Year, of course, separately. And also it's very significant and to compare the two New Years. And from your presentation, we know the major difference between the two New Years. For example, repentance and reunion. So these are the basic and the main differences between the meaning between the two New Years. Thank you very much. Now it's the time for the third speaker, and I would like to invite Professor Shawit to moderate it.
Thank you so much. And I also have to say this was an amazing presentation, Mr. Zhang. It's very difficult to always to analyze things in comparative perspective to make it coherent. So informative, and you've done an amazing job. So thank you so much for that. Before we move on to our next speaker, may I just recognize that we were joined a few minutes ago by Rabbi Ishayahu Gerlitsky. And I see from your face, Rabbi, that you're very impressed with the knowledge of our Chinese friends in Judaism. So you will soon, the floor will be yours. And thank you so much for making the time to be with us. And because I just want to mention, because I see that actually many people joined us over the past 20 minutes. We're now at 113 participants. Just to note, if you missed part of the seminar, we are recording it. We are going to upload it on the Institute's website. And we can also send you individually the link so you can watch the entire thing, or if you'd like to rewatch it. So you'd have that option. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Wang Jiangwei. And I have to say, I have before me his CV, but I also yesterday I did some Google search. So I have to say what I found on Google is even more impressive than what I have here before me. Dr. Wang is assistant researcher at the Center for Judaic and Interreligious Studies, Department of Religious Studies at Shandong University. His research interests include the Hebrew prophetic tradition, comparative religious studies, and Jewish folklore. But I saw yesterday that you also did a lot about Confucian and Jewish concepts and terminologies in comparative perspective, about Rabbi Heschel. I think you wrote about his conception of prophets, and that you have actually been to Israel quite a lot, so you experienced our society and our traditions firsthand. And however, your presentation will be on the Chinese New Year, a Confucian perspective. So the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Professor Shawit. Thanks for your detailed introduce. I'm sorry, almost my articles are written in Chinese. Sorry. And today it's a great honor to give a presentation here. The theme is the Chinese New Year Confucian perspective. Then I will share the screen. Here. Okay. There's 4 parts included, and let's start. The part 1, Spring Festival, a general introduction. As Shitao has just talked about the Chinese New Year in detail, so I only explain some main points related to the Confucian perspective topic. First, the history. Spring Festival has a long history in China. From the beginning of the Western Han dynasty, it's about 200 BCE. There were records of festival celebrations in the royal court. About 5 centuries later, in the Jin dynasty, there were records of folk celebrations of the Spring Festival, and this tradition continues to nowadays. After the victory of the Revolution of 1911, today is 110th anniversary. the Republic of China changed to the Gregorian calendar, assigning January the 1st to the name of Yuandan, meaning the first day, which originally belongs to the first day of the traditional Chinese calendar. But the folk continued to celebrate the Lunar New Year. The time range. It is generally believed that the Spring Festival falls from the 8th day of the last 12th lunar month to the 15th day of the new first lunar month, and reaches its peak on the first day to the third day of the first lunar month. My presentation will focus on the short period of time before and after the first day of the new year. The second, here is a note. The Spring Festival is not exclusively Confucian, but it serves as an excellent showcase for the Confucian ideals. Then we turn to part 2, Spring Festival and Confucian ideals. There are several resonance points between the New Year and the Confucian ideals. First, the transition from the old to the new. Confucianism is a philosophy of life and growth that is constantly producing new things to replace the old. Confucianism advocates in its classics that if you can be new every day, it should be kept new and newer day after day. And to be a new person is from the book of history. We called it 尚书 in Chinese. Confucian ideals are perfectly illustrated by a common Chinese New Year proverb. All things renewed. In Chinese, we say 万象更新. The second idea, the idea of family. The Confucian emphasis on family has become another important combination of Chinese New Year and Confucian ideals. Confucianism advocates gradual understanding and transformation of the world. In 大学, the Great Learning, it is a Confucian classics, one of the Confucian classics, proposed an order recognized and practiced by later Confucians, that is, cultivate one's morality, improve one's family, run the country, and bring peace to the world. Running a family is seen as a rehearsal for politics. During the Spring Festival, one will be back to the family for reunite. This is a picture of the movie star Jackie Chan, who is also a singer. He is singing a song named The State and Family. State and family are two important concepts in the Confucianism. Third, filial piety, the Confucian core idea. Confucianism holds that filial piety is the foundation of benevolence, which is to regard filial piety as the starting point of self-cultivation. So, how to carry out filial piety? The answer is start by honoring your parents at home. not only to honor living parents, but also to honor ancestors who have passed away by sacrifice. Then, the Chinese New Year provides ample performance conditions for the implementation of the Confucian core idea. Part 3, let's focus on Spring Festival and Xiao filial piety. There are 3 pictures. The first one, this is the picture about Chunyuan and Spring Festival travel rush Shi-Tao has just mentioned. The Spring Festival travel rush is famously known as the largest annual human migration in the world. In about 40 days, more than 3 billion people moved, accounting for 3/7 of the world's population. Whether consciously or not educated in Confucianism, Chinese people highly identify with the family. Everyone will go home for reunion if conditions permit. On the festival eve, the second picture, all the family members sit together to enjoy the reunion dinner and watch the Spring Festival gala, the third picture. The reunion dinner is highly similar with the Seder of Pesach, I think, though they have different themes, reunion or freedom. Besides honoring parents, sacrifice to ancestors is the other approach to practice filial piety. One of the Confucian classics, the Book of Rites, said, sacrifice is the most important part of rites. The Spring Festival, like Tomb Sweeping Day, Double Nine Festival, and the Hungry Ghost Festival, is one of the traditional festivals of ancestor worship in China, providing a stage for Chinese people to practice filial piety. I would like to take the Chinese classical novel, The Dream of Red Campbell, for example. I'm not sure if Professor Andrew Plux has finished his Hebrew translation of this book or not. This is the front page from the English version. In chapter 53 of this book, there is a description of the ancestor worship during the Spring Festival, and it is absolutely Confucian style. These are several screenshots from the TV play of this book. We can see worship, the first picture, worship on bended knees, which is to show obedience and piety to parents and their ancestors by physical performance. The second one, this is offer incense to ancestors, which is a traditional way to sacrifice and pray to the ancestors. Here are the pictures of their ancestors this one. Here are the pictures of their ancestors. We know that from the perspective of monotheism, like Judaism, this is the forbidden idol worship. However, Chinese people take it for granted. Sometimes people use the memorial tablets, the left picture, or the family tree form, the right picture, instead of the pictures of ancestors. Parents and ancestors died, whose name will be written on the tablets and in the family tree form. We see both the positions of the tablets on the desk, and the names in the family tree form express the Confucian spirit of order, O-R-D-E-R, order. We can find out his family line easily. In traditional China, and even today in some places such as my hometown, we will go out to our relatives' houses from the 2nd to the 6th day of the first month during the Spring Festival to pay a New Year call. We say 拜年 in Chinese, in order. And this order is fixed by Confucian rites. Following the so-called differentiate pattern, which is an order structure of the Confucian social blueprint. The husband's parents are the center of a circle. We need to visit the wife's parents, the husband's uncles, it means his mother's brothers, and the husband's aunts, it means his father's sisters, and then some others. As we all know, it is hard for us to find the accurate vocabularies to express the meanings. The last part, some other Confucian aspects during the Spring Festival. There are many other Confucian aspects during the Spring Festival. Time limited, I will only introduce the Spring Festival couplets. During the Spring Festival, every family will pass Spring Festival couplets on the door, which are made by red papers, we see, meaning good luck. Many Spring Festival couplets reflect the characteristics of Confucianism. This is a pair of Spring Festival couplets created by myself, and I'm so sorry that the calligraphy are from my elder sister's daughter. It means here is the Chinese characters. It means in English its English means the year's new cycle will begin, and this fresh and good luck will come to my house together. My family's tradition shared the ancient sources, which is relying only on rights and benevolence to carry on the family line. This is all my presentation. Thanks for your attention. Thanks.
Thank you very much. This was again an excellent presentation, and I learned so much from it. I need a few minutes to sort of make sense of it all, but we don't have the few minutes. I would just thank you for doing such an excellent job communicating, including to people who know very, very little on this topic, such as myself, communicating it in such an elaborated and interesting way. And we move on to our next speaker. This is Rabbi Yeshayahu Garlitsky. I think you can recognize who's the rabbi on the screen. And Rabbi Garlitsky is one of the prominent members of Chabad, which is one of the main Hasidic groups in Israel and in the world. He has a very, very busy schedule, which is why I'm extremely thankful and appreciative that he found the time to join us today. And he will discuss the meaning of the year's cycle in Judaism. So Rabbi Garlitsky, the floor is entirely yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Toda Rabba. Thank you. Thank you to let me be a part of this such an interesting session. So I didn't understand everything that everybody said, but I tried to understand part of this, and it was very, very interesting. Could be the subject that we're going to talk, it could be some, I saw that you talk about the Rosh Hashanah and the Pesach, the Passover, the second Rosh Hashanah that we have. I want to make the point of how start this calendar, this Jewish calendar. I don't have such a nice presentation on the computer as everybody made, and I'm sorry about it. Next time I'll try better. The way that, you know, since the beginning of the history, all the people in the world, they have the way to make a calendar, to make a year, to make it was two, everybody knows it was two main other ways to do it. One was to look on the sun. We are going around the sun. We are doing a whole big round around the sun for 365 days. So that's one way to make our calendar, to make a 1 year from the beginning to this around and until the end of it. That's one way. The other way, as everybody knows, it's to look on the moon. We can look on the moon. The moon make a round around us for in 29 days and a half every time. So we are looking at it, and we are doing every time 1 month. And when there is 12 months, that will be a year. That will be together. That will be 355 days. So as everybody knows, that's the Islamic calendar, the Arabic calendar. So that's the main two main ways to make a calendar. When we look in the Bible, when God first choose the Jewish people and said, okay, from now on, you're gonna be the Am Israel. I'm going to take you out of Egypt, as everybody knows, in the Exodus, in the Shmot, Chumash Shmot, the Exodus in the Bible. So God came to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe and Aaron, when he was still in Egypt, and God tells them, we are for now on, you go on, we have a special calendar. What's going to be the calendar? So I think one of the speakers before me mentioned, he said, look on the moon. When you're going to see the moon start, you know, when the moon at the end of the month, we cannot see him. In the second that you can see again the moon, that's going to be Rosh Chodesh. That's from now on going to start the new Chodesh, the new month. And he said that on Chodesh Nisan, and the spring months, Chodesh Nisan, that will be the first month. And from now on, 12 months, you're going to have together, that will be your calendar, the Jewish year. That's very simple. That's the way a lot of nations doing even before that. But just couple psukim, not couple days after that, as the Bible tells us. Couple days after that, God speak again to Moses and Aaron, and he said, okay, that's not enough. You have not just the calendar that's going according to the moon. You have to do also the year according to the sun too. He said you have to make sure that this holiday that you have, Pesach, Passover, that you have it and this month, Chodesh Nisan, you have to make sure that's going to be every time in Chodesh HaAviv, in the spring months. It must be in the beginning of the spring of this and the same, and even gonna move also thousands years. It's up to be the same time, in the same month in the spring. And as we understand, if we're gonna make our calendar according to the moon, that cannot be true, because if somebody, I'm sure you know, when we have the calendar according to the moon as the Islamic calendar, the holidays always move if the Ramadan could be in the winter, the Ramadan can be after a couple of years in the summer too, because it's not the same year. It's not the same year as the as the time of the Onot Hashanah. How to say it? The Onot, the seasons of the year. So, and God said, no, you have to have both of them. You have to have according to the moon and also according to the sun. And that makes a big challenge for the Jewish rabbis since Moshe Rabbeinu until today. It's a big challenge. How can you do it if you have the Rosh Chodesh every time? We start the months every time according to the moon. Just in the second you see the moon, that's going to make you to count the new months. So how can you do it should be according also to the seasons, that this is have to do with the sun. And so if somebody knows about the Jewish calendar, that's the way we put as this year that we are now, we put another month. We not have 12 months, we have 13 months in some years. And also we also change there is months that we can make them 29 days and 30 days. And that's just today. In the old days was even bigger the problem, because they didn't have any calendar that you can know from now what's going to be in 5 years from now and 10 years from now. They cannot even know what if let's say we are now 1 month before. Let's say we are now in Chodesh Elul, last month before 2 months before. You cannot even know when going to be the Rosh Hashanah, and more than that, you cannot even know when going to be the Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur that's the most important day in the Jewish calendar, as the Torah said. If a Jewish man that's not going to do the Yom Kippur, not going to fast the Yom Kippur, not going to be a part of this, is like not another one of us. The Torah is very strong about it. Yom Kippur, that's the main day, and 10 days before, nobody in the Jewish people cannot even know when going to be this day. Such an important day, and you cannot know when is that, because it's depends if we're going to see the moon. If these guys that will see the moon, they're going to go to the rabbis and they're going to tell them, they're going to give them the weaknesses that they saw the moon, and they're going to ask them the question, and then they're going to make the announcement. Everybody should know, okay, the month start now, start today, or start tomorrow, and depends of that when going to be the Yom Kippur. And that was a big, let's say, big headache. It's not such a simple. And even after all of that, God said, okay, that's one problem, and even though you need also to make sure that it will be also together with the seasons of the year, that have to do with the sun. And that's always a question. Why God in the Bible tell the Jewish people all the time, you should have both of that. You should have the moon and you should have the sun, and you have to be a big to know a lot of mathematics to make all count, how to make it to make this calendar going through together with both of them. And we are, as the professor mentioned before, we are the Hasidic, and the Hasidic is based on the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah, it can explain that in very interesting way. It says also in the people in the world, as the way God creates all the people in the world, there is two main kind of people, two kinds that everyone can see by himself where he belongs to. There is people that they are very, you can say boring, but you can say also very sudarim, very straight. Everything is very going on the way, and one every day is the same. They know exactly what they're going to do today, what they're going to do tomorrow. They know people that a lot of us wish to be like this. you know, there is no big changes. We know exactly where I'm going to be and what I want to do, and nobody can change them the schedule today. Like that, it's good. You can say boring, but these people, that's the people that, you know, a lot of them, they are very successful too, because everything is rather the same as Sudarim.
Organized.
Very organized people. That's one kind of people. And there is other kind of people. I don't say it about myself, but everyone can know that there is people that they are people that they always have surprises. They always looking to do something in other ways. They never know what's going to be today, what's going to be tomorrow. They never wake up in the hour that they want to wake up. Everything in the life is going in another way, not such organized as it's have to be. But as we understand, that's also a good thing, because they're always looking to be better. They never want to know they never want to be the same as they was yesterday. Now they want to do something new. And the same thing when we are looking about to be a good man, not just about yourself, or about to do good to the world, to make your mission in the world, the mission that God sent you to do in this world, is also the same. You can have the missions that you make. You know that you are good, but you are good for yourself. That's what I want to do. That's what I need to do, and that's I will do the same in all my life. And there is other way that also always you want to be more. You want to make new things. You want to do a lot more that yesterday. And the Torah want to show us, and that's you should know that's the first mitzvah in the Torah. The mitzvah of the calendar, God didn't give us, first of all, you know, mitzvah is Yom Kippur. This is very important in the Jewish calendar. And let's say mitzvah is Shabbat, that everybody knows, or mitzvah is Sabbath, yeah, and Brit Milah, and you know, such a big mitzvot, or lo tirtzach, don't kill, or lo tignov, don't steal, all the mitzvot in the Aseret HaDibrot. The first mitzvah from 613 mitzvot, mitzvot is commands, yes, 613 commands that we have in the Torah. The first mitzvah is to do the calendar, to do this special calendar, the Jewish special calendar. And the reason why this is so, the Torah put such a main chashivut, main importance about it, is because that's the way God want us to live. That's you should not be one of this kind. You must be both of them together. If I have a little bit more minute, I have such a little bit more time. I want to tell you something. A very very interesting story that says in one of our midrashim, one of our old books. It says it was sitting together the Tanaim, the rabbis, the big rabbis at the time of the Mishnah, 1800 years ago. And they're sitting in the Beit HaMidrash, in the place where they are studying, and they're sitting together, and they might make some question as a sport. I don't know what was it, but there was some question in the Beit HaMidrash. What from all the Bible, we know the Bible is such a big, from all the Bible, what is the main or the important pasuk in the Bible? From all the Bible, you know, there is Shema Yisrael, everybody knows. There is Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You should be good to everyone. Bereshit bara Elokim. Maybe that's what's the main pasuk. And each one of them, one would say another one. Yeah, as I said, one say the main pasuk for me is Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God is the only creator. We should know that's the main pasuk. The other guy said Bereshit, the first pasuk in the Torah. The other one. So, and then came one of them, and he said, "You know what's the main pasuk?" He said, there is pasuk about the avodah, the work that they used to do in the temple, in the Beit HaMikdash. the Holy Temple, they made the avodah. It was a lot of mitzvot. People used to come to the holidays and make a lot of mitzvot and sacrifice and everything. And there is avodah that they do every day. It's called korban tamid. Every day they made korban tamid. ואת הכבש האחד תעשה בבוקר, את הכבש השני תעשה בין הערביים. There is one korban tamid that you have to do every day in the morning, and there is one korban tamid that you have to do every day afternoon.
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice. And he said, you know, this pasuk, that's the main pasuk in the Bible. So everybody looking at it and said, what's about? It's one pasuk from a lot of pasukim. What's such a big in this pasuk? What do you see in this pasuk? And this is also something we don't have today. Not just the Kohanim, just some kind of people that work in Beit HaMikdash. They need to have it. All the Jewish people never have to do with this command, with this pasuk. So, but then after they made a whole conversation, they decide that he is right. That's the main pasuk in the Bible. Why? Because this pasuk means to say, after all the big things, after you have a big holiday, you come to Rosh Hashanah, and then you have Passover, and then you have Sukkot, and you have a lot of mitzvot that you are very happy to do, and the men make bar mitzvah and make marriage. And after all, the main thing in your life is that you should have something that you must do every day. That there is no change for it's never changing. Something that you take on yourself, some mitzvah, some good thing that you do, that you never change it. You should have all the good thing, all the holidays in the world, not going to change you from this small mitzvah that you are doing every day. That's mean from one hand, to be organized, to do the same thing, the same good thing for forever, and not change, and never go back from this. That's from one hand, that's the main thing. But in the other hand, you should remember all the time that you must be as the moon calendar. Moon calendar means to say, you know, the sun is always the same. The moon never every night look other. Never look the same when you're gonna see him tonight, you're gonna see him tomorrow night, the moon always gonna look in another way. And that's the Torah said you must have both of them. From one hand, you must be very organized. There is something that you are doing all the time. If it's comfortable to you or not, if you have time for this or not, you are doing that all the time. On the other hand, you should remember that every day you have to be new. You have to look new, to do something new that you didn't have before. We say in the tefillah, in the special prayer that we have, it's called Kiddush Levana, the blessing on the moon. He said we should shehem atidim lehitchadesh kmota. We should always be renew. I think we should always be new as the moon. We should always look. We should always be fresh and new, and always look forward to be not as we was yesterday. We should always be new, and that's the secret, I think, of the Jewish calendar, and that's also the first mitzvah. It's come to show us, first of all, how God wants from you to live. He wants for you to be a guy that doing the same all the time as the sun calendar, as the sun. But also God wants from you to be HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. Look at the moon and be the same as the moon. Always be other. And that's also somebody mentioned why we have two Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah of the first of Tishrei, and one Rosh Hashanah in the 15th. Rosh Hashanah 15 of Nisan. Also Passover is also Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It's also the same. It's also some of Rosh Hashanah.
Rabbi Shaya, thank you. We are short in time.
Okay.
It was really.
Okay.
So
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. It was amazing. Very informative and comprehensive. Thank you so much. Toda raba.
Sure.
And yeah, I think we have only one more speaker, which is myself. So, I mean, I guess I introduced myself by just saying hello, but because we are almost running out of time, I think maybe
may I give a
please.
very brief introduction to you, to
Please
the
do.
audience.
Sure.
The next speaker is the Professor Uriah Savage. Uriah Savage is the director of the Hunt Institute of Jewish and Israeli Studies in Tel Aviv University. And he's the full professor for Islamic Studies and Migration Studies at Tel Aviv University, and served as the chairman of the Department of Arabic and Islamic Studies, as well as the program in religious studies. He is the author of non-academic books and dozens of articles, and with a focus on modern political theology in Arabic world and the sociology of Islamic in the West. Now, please, Professor Savage.
Thank you very much for this introduction. We have the slides to show, and I just want to say a very quick word of introduction about what I do before I present to you the issue, the theme that is today, is my topic today. I'm actually, as Professor Fa mentioned, I study Islam, and I study mainly Islamic law, Sharia law. And over the past 6 years, my main project, which I've actually just completed, was a study of the way ordinary Muslims, if we can use that term, people who are not imams or muftis, just people who attend mosques, the ways ordinary Muslims engage with Sharia, engage with Islamic law in their everyday lives. So there is the religious law, there is the revealed law, and then there is life. Where do they meet? And where do they depart? And what helped me a lot in pursuing that project, which I pursued in several mosques across Europe, what helped me a lot is my experience as a Jew, a secular Jew in Israeli society, and also someone who studied this to some extent with regards to Jewish society in Israel. And perhaps the two main points I want to share with you before the data that I will present are theoretical and broad. They relate not just to Judaism. One, it's a mistake to think of human beings, of individuals, as either religiously devout or secular, as God-fearing or atheist. Most of the people I interviewed in the course of those 6 years were religious, but they did not abide by each and every Sharia norm. And they had many different strategies as to how to justify for themselves why they do not abide. The second point, which I noticed in the course of my studies, is that it's not always easy to tell the difference as to when we do something because of religious motivations and when we do it because of culture, folklore, habit. The lines between the two are not always clear. When I do something which is rooted in religion, which is in Judaism a mitzvah, in Islam a Sharia norm, a revealed command. When I do it because the book, the holy book says so? Or do I do it because my father did so and his father did so and I'm just used to doing so? So do I do it because of cultural, folkloristic, traditional reasons? Or do I do it because of my consciousness of the divine, because I'm God-fearing? It's impossible to clearly distinguish between the two, even in the case of people who are religious. I think it's more easy to understand that it should be very easy to distinguish between the two in the case of people who are secular. But even in the case of people who are religious, the lines are often blurred. Yom Kippur, as you know, that was mentioned already several times in our seminar today. Yom Kippur is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. And it marks the end of a period of 10 days in which Jews have a chance, have an opportunity to repent for whatever they've done wrong during the past year. Now, if you are completely evil, that's not going to help you. You are doomed already on the first day. If you are an absolute righteous person, you don't need that because you're absolutely righteous. But most human beings, almost all human beings, are neither nor. They're not absolutely righteous, they're not absolutely evil. So what, according to Jewish belief, what they do during those 10 days would decide their fate at the end of Yom Kippur in the high heavens. God would balance the good and bad deeds, and they should wish that the balance would favor the good deeds. So people pray very hard, try to repent very hard during that 10-day period. And as was mentioned before, you can only repent doing that, praying, doing other things, with regards to whatever wrongs you have done in relation to your duty to God. If you have committed a sin or error with relation to a friend or a family member, you must win that person's repentance if you want to be forgiven. That person must forgive you if you want that in the high heavens you would be considered as someone who fully repented or repentance to be accepted. And on that last day of the 10-day period, we have Yom Kippur, which is a one day in which Jews are not supposed to eat, drink, obviously work, smoke, drive, and have sex. All of these things they're not allowed to do. Now, I don't know how many of you actually fasted in your life, even if you're not religious, maybe for medical reasons, there was an occasion that you had to fast. Fasting is not an easy thing. The first 20, 21 hours are actually not that bad. But the final 3 or 4 are extremely difficult. Maybe not to the rabbi, because he had such strong faith, but most people find it very difficult. In Islam, by the way, the fasting is shorter, is much longer in terms of the number of days. Ramadan is a month, but it's much shorter. So to fast for 25 hours is not easy. And I guess it's quite obvious why someone who is religious, who is devout, whose heart is full of pure faith, like the rabbi, why he would fast. Because Rabbi Yeshayahu, I'm sure, believes that indeed this is what happens. At the end of Yom Kippur, God would seal his fate. And if you're a National Orthodox Jew, then obviously it's the same. And if you're a religious traditionalist Jew, it's possibly the same. But if you happen to be a secular Jew, such as myself, why would you fast? Why would you not drive? Why would you not work? Why would you not do all the other things I mentioned? So let's look, please, at the next chart, which is a breakdown of Israeli society. And I think maybe this data would surprise some of you, because people have a tendency to think of Israel as a rather religious society, or at least conservative and traditional, and one that is becoming increasingly so. Well, 43% of adult Israelis define themselves as secular. They are secularists. Around 50% of these are also self-declared atheists. 33% define themselves as traditionalists, of which only 1/3 define themselves as religious traditionalists. 11% are National Orthodox, and around 10% are ultra-Orthodox. Obviously, if I included in this chart also children, the data would be somewhat different, because religious people tend to have many more kids than secular and traditionalists. But not all people who grow up as religious, as part of religious families or in religious families, end up being religious when they are adults. So in fact, it's fair to say that only a quarter, in fact, a little less than a quarter of Israeli society are absolutely consciously religious, and almost a half are secular. But, and now let's see our final chart. How many of the Jews in Israel fast on Yom Kippur? Well, around 2/3. There is different data in different surveys, but it's around 2/3 of the adult Israeli population that proclaims that it fasts. But by the way, that's an important observation. The fact that someone says in a survey that he or she fasts doesn't mean that they actually do. At least they try to fast. But 2/3 state that they fast, including 25% of secular Jews. I have to say, I was surprised with this number. To be honest, I thought it's higher. That is my intuitive impression from living here, that more than 25% of secular Jews fast. But this is what the surveys that we have at our disposal, this is what they say. And the question is the following. If you are a secular person, meaning that you don't believe that at some point in history, several thousand years ago, God decided that Jews are the chosen people, and that that's a certain mitzvahs that they must perform. And that one of them is that on Yom Kippur, if they want to live, if they want to be appreciating the high heaven, they must fast. If you don't believe all of this to be true, why would you fast? Why would you engage in something that is so difficult, that is almost towards the end, a physical torture? Why would people do that? And the answer to that question, why do secular Jews fast, is interesting precisely because it tells us that it's not always easy to distinguish between the religious and the rabbinical law religious and the cultural, folkloristic, and social. So let's see some of the reasons, some of the motivations for secular Jews to fast. This is actually our final chart. Well, Yom Kippur is the holiest day on the calendar. And even very secular people would find themselves possibly saying, well, I want to be on the safe side. You know, I don't think all of this is true. I don't think we were given all these commandments. I don't think we have all these mitzvahs. I don't think God gave them, even if I believe in God. I don't think God chose the Jews as his chosen people and gave them those very specific, special mitzvahs, commandments. But I want to be on the safe side. You know? And this is the sort of the one thing. This is the one thing that I don't want to screw up. This is the one thing that if it just happens to be true, then I want to be on the correct side and abide. And even if you are not fearing God in any way, you are absolutely certain that all of this is not empirically, factually true. This is not a day of judgment. If you are a secular Jew, but a non-atheist, you find Yom Kippur a very good occasion to express your faith, to have something in your life that expresses your recognition that there is a higher entity, a metaphysical one, that regulates your life. So that is one reason why secular Jews fast on Yom Kippur. Then there is another. Fasting on Yom Kippur is a way of manifesting Jewish identity. there is this one thing the Jews do together on one day. And if you have a cultural sense of being Jewish, again, even if you're absolutely not religious, you find it useful to have that one day during the year where you express your identity in religious terms, even if that identity is absolutely cultural. To respect tradition is another motivation. Even if you don't believe that you should fast or that it makes sense to fast, many people around you fast. Maybe your parents fast. Maybe your wife fasts, and you want to respect them. So the way to respect is not to eat a big cheeseburger in front of them on Yom Kippur. There is, I have to say, a very famous joke, a very famous Jewish joke. But you have to laugh when I complete the joke, okay? So I'm not embarrassed. So there is a famous joke about someone who approaches his rabbi and tells the rabbi, "Rabbi, I sinned. I feel so bad. I went to a restaurant and I ate pork. So the rabbi said, why did you go to a non-kosher restaurant and ate pork? I mean, that's a sin. Maybe it can be forgiven, but I want to know why you did it." So the Jew tells the rabbi, "Well, what could I have done? It was Yom Kippur. All the Jewish restaurants were closed." So, yes, yeah, I think you get the point. Now, another motivation for fasting on Yom Kippur is that, as you know, you're only supposed to fast when you reach the age of 13, when you reach puberty. So many people have this memory from childhood that when they were 13, or maybe even a year or two before, they showed the parents, they showed everyone around them, yes, we are children, but we manage, we endure, we can fast for 25 hours, just like the adults. And once you've done it, it sticks with you. This notion, well, last year I was able, so what do you want to say? This year I'm not able? I will show you I'm able. I can make it through 25 hours without a cigarette and without drinking. And then there is the final motivation. And it might sound funny to you, but it is a very, very big motivation for many people. Yom Kippur comes after several days in which Israeli Jews go, just like in the Confucian tradition, to many reunions, many family dinners, where there is a lot of food served. So people get a bit, how should I say, fat after those 10 days of celebrations. They gain 3, 4, 5 kilos, and then they have this blessed opportunity in a culturally supervised and an acceptable way to not eat for 25 hours. So they cherish the opportunity for this socially imposed diet. And that is an important motivation. All these motivations together, I think, they're not mutually exclusive. A lot of secular people who fast have all of these 5 motivations in mind when they start a fast, and it helps them, those 5 motivations, they help them actually manage through and complete a 25-hour fast. Here I conclude. I think we have now a little time for
10
questions.
minutes.
10 minutes. That is good. So I guess we open the floor, and I don't know how many of our speakers managed to stay with us. I think
the
rabbi had to leave.
And also Dr. Salzberg.
Both of them, or
Yeah,
both of them? Yeah, they had class today. So the 3 of us that are left, I guess we'll welcome comments or questions.
I have a question to Dr. Wang Tianwei. Wang Laoshe, thank you for your great presentation. Of course, I was really, really interested by all the comments and the examples that you gave from the Confucian tradition regarding the New Year. And you mentioned the classics, of course, and I would like to know today in China, when the Chinese people celebrate the New Year, do they have in mind that they are actually following some Confucian ideas or Confucian tradition, or they just, as Professor Shavit mentioned, just continue the family tradition? Or are they familiar with the classics, with the quotes that you mentioned? Or it's just your perspective or the way you see it now, or emphasize the Confucian characteristics of Chinese New Year celebrations in China?
Oh, thanks, Lin 老师. Haven't seen you for a long time.
Yes.
Thanks for your question. I think most of the Chinese people do not think they are following the Confucian classics when they celebrate the Spring Festival, I think. But you know, the atmosphere of in China is very Confucian. It's a Confucian atmosphere, not maybe. I think not all the people are educated following the Confucianism, but they are following their family tradition from their fathers, their grandfather, and maybe the older ancestors. They
Yes, I see.
It's a constantly tradition. I think maybe.
Okay, thank you.
It's
Thanks. I understand.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I express myself clearly. 林老师.
It's okay. I understood. You can also say it in Chinese. I guess I understand it.
Yeah, I will speak in Chinese.
Yes.
OK. 现在应该是并不是所有的中国人都认为他们在按照儒家的方式来过他们的春节，但是我们知道在中国就是有非常浓厚的儒家的传统，这已经我们的汉语有一个成语，不知道你还记不记得，化门成俗，已经深深的融化到我们的民俗里边去了啊 ，custom into our custom。
Yes。
所以他们不一定是有意识的按照儒家的方式去过他们的生活，但是实际上他们是和儒家的这种理念相符合的。
我明白了。Great, thank you.
Maybe you want to very briefly.
Like what Wang mentioned in for our non-Chinese. Yes.
But do you need a translation?
You want to do that, please, Yan Yan?
Yeah, I think what Wang Laoshi means, like in China, not all the Chinese people, they think they are following the Confucian way, but the Confucian ideas and values are in everywhere in our like spirits or customs of our nation. So we don't need to follow the Confucian way on purpose, but actually we maybe follow the way or practice the way in our life, normally or unconsciously. Am I right, Ms. Wang Laoshi?
Yes. Thanks, Ping Laoshi. Yeah.
Right. Good. Thank you.
Do we have more comments or questions?
Please. So may I ask a question about why the secular Jews take fast in Yom Kippur? Professor Shavit gave 5 reasons It's very interesting and very helpful for us to understand the reasons. On the second reason, I mean, you said that they participate in fast because they want to manifest the Jewish identity. You reminded me of the Shabbat day. So, you know, Shabbat day and Hashanah and Yom Kippur, these 3 days are Jewish holy days, and all of them, to some degree, show the Jewish identity. So could you do some comparison between Shabbat day and Yom Kippur? I mean, and to show the Jewish identity, which holiday, I mean Shabbat or Yom Kippur, which one is more important?
So I can only say, based on my humble knowledge of Jewish rabbinical law, that in certain senses, Shabbat is more important, or that if you breach from a religious rabbinical point of view, rabbinical law point of view, if you breach your duties on Shabbat, which is the duty not to be active, not to work, then the punishment is bigger than the punishment for not abiding by the regulations of Yom Kippur. But I think from the point of view of secular Israelis, the reason why some of them choose Yom Kippur as the means to manifest Jewish identity, whereas almost none of them abides by Shabbat regulations. They drive, they watch television, they smoke, and so forth, is simply because Yom Kippur is 1 day. It's an easier manifestation. Shabbat is every week. And you lose much more by observing Shabbat than by observing Yom Kippur. Of course, if the rabbi was still with us, he would tell you, you gain so much if you observe Shabbat. You gain the time with your family, you gain the peace of mind that there is no mobile and no WhatsApp, no Facebook and no television. You gain a lot of, but secular people chose to be secular because they want to have the choice. When to watch television, when to use the internet. And Yom Kippur limits the choice, limits the options just for 1 day. So it's an easy path of manifestation. And I think that's one of the reasons why it is in fact observed by a relatively large number of secular Jews. By the way, I could have given the example of circumcision for it, which is also good. Maybe it's even a better example. Almost all Israelis circumcise their children, including secular Israelis. And then the question is, why do you do that? It's a religious mitzvah. It's something that you're supposed to do if you're a religious Jew. But if you're a secular Jew, you don't see it that way. So why do you do that? And then again, the answer, it's not just about religion. It's cultural, it's social, it's tradition, it's habit, it's, let's be on the safe side, it's also a health issue. So these things are very complicated and nuanced.
Okay, and thank you very much for your answer. You just mentioned 25 of the secular Jews participate in the ceremony in Yom Kippur, and almost all of the Jews in Israel circumcise their boys. And I also wonder what percent of the secular Jews spend Shabbat as a holiday, and how many people and what percent of the people don't practice Shabbat day? I mean, they work on Shabbat day to work. They work and they drive and do labor. So you have some. Do you have idea what is the percent?
I think the vast majority of secular Jews do not observe Shabbat. The vast majority, I would say almost the totality.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I gave the example of Yom Kippur and circumcision. The vast majority of secular Jews have a Passover dinner, have a Seder. The vast majority have a Rosh Hashanah dinner. So, and I think it has a lot to do with how much of an effort is involved and what do you gain and what do you lose. From Yom Kippur, from Rosh Hashanah, from circumcision, I think the gains seem to many people much bigger than the losses, than the sacrifice. And that's why it's easier for them to follow those traditions. Whereas if you observe Shabbat, it means there is an entire day during each and every week where you are extremely limited in terms of what you can do. And this is something that many secular Jews, by the way, also many traditionalist Jews find very difficult to give up on that freedom to watch football, to watch television, to use your mobile, to smoke. And I guess that's the reason for the difference in practices and opinions.
Thank you very much for your answers. Any more questions? Please, let's take this precious opportunity to raise a question.
I have a question to 庄世涛。可以再看一下你那个 PPT 吗？就是出埃及记那一张。
可以。
So raise your question, please.
From the slide, we can see the words from Exodus only say that this month is to be for you the first month of your year. But how can we know this first month is the Nisan month? How can we know that Rosh Hashanah must be in the Tishrei month just from this verse? I don't know much of the Jewish calendar, so I have this question. 也就是说，我们只在这一句的经文中，我们怎么知道它这个正月指的是不是这个尼撒月，还是指的是这个提斯里月呢？
我用中文回答吧。其实犹太人他有两个calendar，一个是教历，一个是民历。他们的教历的1月就是尼散月，他们的民历的1月被认为是提示里月。所以根据圣经的话，以正月为首，这个正月就指的是教历的1月。
好的，谢谢。
说法可能还有好多争议，可以在私下讨论一下吧。
好的，谢谢 ，Thank you。
好。
翻译一下吗？
我刚刚有一点走神，我想问一下，OK, we have a student 李浩探 he asked a question. 浩探，要是我说的不对，你纠正一下我啊。He asked the question from the sentence of the Exodus in the Bible. How can we know the month is exactly the month of Nisan, not the month of other names? 这个对吗？李浩探。
没错，差不多是这样。就是说，我们有没有其他的文件，我们说能够非常明确的说明，哪一个月我们现在过的1月、2月、3月分别对应是在哪一个时间点
？And is there any documents or files can tell? And now we are following the calendar, and the first month is the Nisan month. And Mr. Zhuang Shitao's answer is that in Jewish tradition, there are 2 calendars, right? One is the religious calendar, and the other one is 什么吗？
civil calendar.
Civil calendar. So this part, this sentence in the Bible is following the religious calendar, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any more questions?
I have one question. Can you hear me?
Please. Yes, please.
I have a question for Professor Yuya Shavit. When you talk about the fast, I was wondering, from the data, we can saw that maybe now the secular Jewish is much more than the religious Jewish, but now we know the religious party is growing maybe stronger than before in the government. So the religious party will want us to, everybody, maybe not everybody, but the majority to do the fast. But the secular person, they don't want to do the religious things. So I'm wondering if maybe in the future, how to solve the conflict from the secular Jewish and the religious Jewish. And maybe in the future, like the China, the just become some customs or the tradition maybe on the fast. I'm wondering about this. Thank you.
This is an excellent question, and maybe my answer will surprise you. First, this Israeli government is the first to be led by a religious person, but it is in many ways the most non-religious government in Israel's existence. None of the religious political parties is in the coalition. So in a sense, it's a very secular government, ironically. So that's one point. Second point is, yes, it's true. Religious people are, you can argue that they grow in numbers because they have more children per family. The average number of children per an ultra-Orthodox family is 6. The average for a secular family is 2. So you can do the math. The problem the ultra-Orthodox have, and also the National Orthodox, is that not all of their children remain religious. You see, modernity is a very vicious beast. Even if you don't notice its existence as such, it's there. And there is a famous saying by a late National Orthodox politician. He said, "We, the National Orthodox, we produce more secular people than the secular, because they have more children per family, but some of those children become secular." So the demographic breakdown is more tricky than it seems. And the final point is the following. There is no law in Israel that says you cannot drive your car on Yom Kippur. And yet almost everyone respects the cultural norm that on Yom Kippur, even if you live in secular neighborhoods, you don't drive your car. So social obedience is not always the result of laws and impositions. Sometimes, in fact, it's just the other way around. When something is not imposed as a law, more people respect it because they do that, they have the option to do that or not do that of their free will. So I'm not sure that if ever, in fact, I can say something radical. If ever there was a government that legislated something along the lines of that you are not allowed to drive your car on Yom Kippur, you would see many people do that to spite. They would start driving their cars on Yom Kippur as a show of disobedience. Because it's just a cultural norm, people respect it more willingly and I would say even eagerly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Iris.
The seminar has lasted over 2 hours. I think it's time for us to close the seminar. Do you agree, Professor Savage?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would like to say thank you very much. I mean, thank you all of the 5 speakers for your wonderful presentations. Also thank you for all of the participants.
Thank you.
And finally, I would just like to say, express my thanks to Professor Shavit and Yimbo for your efforts to prepare the seminar. Also, Yan in Stanford University, who did a lot of work for preparation for this seminar. Thank you very much indeed. So let's close the seminar, and would like to say good night for the people in China, and good afternoon for the audience in Israel. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
谢谢你们。
谢谢。好，我们现在可以结束了，谢谢大家，再次谢谢大家。
再见。
再见。